Shalom. Professor Raz Jelinek, Vice President for Research and Development, representing Professor Daniel Shamovitz today, President of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, who is unable to be with us. Professor Angel Purgador, Dean of the Faculty of Health Sciences, Mr. Ronald Prosserman, who has generously contributed to the Centre. Leaders of the BGU Palliative Care Resource Centre, Professor Pesach Schwarzman, Dr. Yoram Zinger, Professor Mark Clarfield, Dr. Tali Sampson, members of the International Advisory Board, family members of the late Kappy Flanders, her daughters Susan, Judith and Elle, and their families. Leaders of Canadian Associates of Ben-Gurion University, Chairman Mitchell Olbaum, CEO Mark Mendelson, honoured guests. My name is Jeff Kay. I am the Vice President for Public Affairs and Resource Development at Ben-Gurion University, and it is my privilege to have been asked to chair today's proceedings, the dedication of the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Resource Centre at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. Almost a year ago, I met Kappy Flanders for the first time in her home in Montreal, Canada. I remember thinking at the time that this meeting was long overdue, since I had so many connections to her via her daughter, her sister, her niece, and even her common Scottish ancestry. I know that once I had met her, I felt that I'd known her for decades. And as her daughter Susan wrote to me just a few weeks ago, she had that effect on people. I left her with a promise that day that Ben-Gurion University would finally establish a Centre for Palliative Care, an effort that she had begun almost 20 years ago, following the death of her husband Eric, once she realized how essential quality of life interventions were for those who were dying. And Ben-Gurion University was the perfect location for the centre to be established, since she and Eric had been the founders of the university's Canadian Associates in the 1970s. And BGU already had the largest concentration of specialist doctors relevant to palliative care in the entire country. All of this was still relevant, and there was still some money available to help launch that effort. So I spent much of the last year talking to those who were originally involved, all of whom were highly motivated to revisit that original plan. We introduced the plans to some new people, and we're very pleased to receive a significant multi-year contribution from Ron Prosserman of Toronto, which would allow us to launch the centre in October of 2020. But during the first miserable and lonely weeks of the coronavirus crisis in spring of this year, I was able to let Kappy know that despite everything, we were pushing ahead. And she was pleased, but apparently she already knew that she was sick. So in mid-June, when we communicated for the last time, I reiterated my promise to Kappy that we would stay on schedule. In her very straightforward manner, she gave me some final instructions and somewhat reluctantly agreed to lend her name to the centre. So that brings us today, and just a week after the World Hospice and Palliative Care Day was observed globally. Israel too now will have a national palliative care centre here in Beersheba at Ben-Gurion University, and named in memory of Kappy and Eric Flanders. It is my honour to ask Professor Raz Jelinek, Vice President for Research and Development, to address you on behalf of our President, Professor Daniel Shamovitz.
On behalf of our President, Professor Danny Shamovitz, it is my honor to dedicate the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Resource Centre at Ben-Gurion University. Kappy Flanders was a true friend of BGU, and her recent passing away was a sad moment to her friends and admirers in the BGU community, and all those that have been touched by her kindness and generosity. It is thus truly fitting that her name and Eric's will be forever memorialized in this center, the first of its kind in Israel. With the dedicated leadership Both a reputed international advisory board and guidance by prominent physicians and researchers at Soroka University Hospital and the university, we intend that the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Resource Center will become a central venue for education, training, research, and proactive advocacy. Overall, the center will embody the BGU spirit of lead, not follow. The establishment of the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Resource Center is particularly timely in light of the growing awareness of the importance of palliative care as an integral part of our unwritten contract as a society to help our loved ones in all stages of life and health. To the Flanders family, I thank you on behalf of Professor Shamovitz and all the BGU community. I wish us all good health and Shana Tova.
Greetings from Montreal. It is an immense privilege for me to be able to participate to this dedication ceremony of the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Resource Center at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, and to say few words to you about Kappy Flanders, who was a remarkable leader and activist, a formidable volunteer for the cause of quality end-of-life care, a compassionate and genuine mentor for many of us, and a dear friend for me. Kappy was vibrant, intelligent, and a remarkably energetic woman who possessed a rare sense of humor. She was a connector, bringing together volunteers, professionals, intellectuals, artists, and leaders around the cause of quality end-of-life care. Following the death of her husband, Eric, Kappy became determined that every family should know about and have access to quality palliative care. Over the last decades, she managed to profoundly transform and enable palliative care here in Montreal, across Canada, and in your country. Let me talk about three of her key initiatives here in Montreal. First, the creation in 1994 of the Eric M. Flanders Chair in Palliative Medicine at McGill, the first chair in palliative medicine in North America, which was then attributed to Dr. Balfour Mount, a chair I have had the honor to hold for more than 11 years. The creation of the McGill Council on Palliative Care, a dedicated group of volunteers committed to the essential mission to educate the public about palliative care, to help to train volunteer palliative care providers and family caregivers, and to improve access to palliative care services. Finally, last October, the Council, in collaboration with a large group of contributors, organized an important compassionate community initiative called the Projection Week, which became a unique opportunity for Montrealers to harness the power of creativity, to explore major questions about life and death from different points of views and disciplines: philosophical, medical, social, religious, artistic, and educational. This event was exceptionally successful, and Kappy was already planning a second edition for the fall of 2021. Kappy Flanders' legacy will live on in so many ways, but she would be happiest if she thought her work had helped others navigate end of life with grace, adequate resources, and the ability to have clear conversations with their family and loved ones about their wishes and dreams. This is a challenge we all share in her memory. My best wishes to all of you for the success of the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Center at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. Thank you.
amazing courage she showed in deciding where and how to end her life was a picture of who she really was: determined, straightforward, dignified, and fearless.
Kappy will be greatly missed by those who knew her, admired her, and miss her very much.
Shalom and welcome. My name is Ron Prosserman, and while I cannot be with you here today, I'm thrilled to share my thoughts about this great occasion. People come and go in our lives, giving us or leaving us a little something that makes our lives more tolerable, joyful, and meaningful. I am truly blessed because I am lucky enough to have been close with a man for whom I have tremendous admiration and who has given my family a great deal. Dr. Vivian Rakov of blessed memory was a trusted family advisor, mentor, and friend, a man of extraordinary caliber, and one of the only people my father truly respected and admired. Former chair of the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Toronto, Dr. Rakov taught generations of students to balance scientific knowledge with humanism in their clinical practices, which he did in his own work in adolescent and family psychiatry. He received the Order of Canada for his contributions and for his role in founding the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health. But more than 30 years ago, my brothers and I sat in his basement study, unaware that this gentle, kind, brilliant, extraordinary, yet humble man would have such a major impact on our family and our life decisions. I was privileged to receive his guidance, love, and friendship for nearly a decade after he officially retired from the CAMH. Vivian Rakov passed away on October 1, 2020, at the age of 92, his life journey taking him from Cape Town to London to Montreal and to Toronto, leaving indelible footprints in the hearts and minds of generations of students, professionals, families, and friends. His contributions to his profession, to his community, and to this world will be cherished forever. A short time ago, I told him that my brothers and I wanted to honor him. In his selfless and unassuming way, he asked us to support this new centre at Ben-Gurion University, in honour of two men that he himself greatly respected: the Nobel laureate Sir Aaron Klug, his son Adam Klug, a brilliant economist and BGU scholar who died in 2000 at age 46, both of blessed memory. And so, here we are at long last paying homage to men worthy of great respect and admiration, crossing generations, disciplines, time zones, oceans, and continents. On behalf of my brothers and the entire Prosserman family, it is my privilege to honour both Dr. Vivian Rakov and the Klug family with the official opening of the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Centre at the Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. We know that Dr. Rakov would be proud, and his wife Gina, who cannot be with us, would echo that sentiment, as would the Klug family and all those whom we thank and appreciate for the important work that you have done and will continue to do. Kol hakavod to all.
Dearest members of the Flanders family and esteemed guests, it is a special day for me personally, for the Ben-Gurion University, for the palliative care in Israel, and most importantly, for all the patients and the families in need. In Kappy, I found a person who was passionate advocate for palliative care, and as a result, 20 years ago, she decided to support our program. First, maybe I'll tell some history. I learned that in 1991, Kappy had faced the premature painful death of her husband, Eric Flanders, from lung cancer. She strongly believed that before his death, her late husband's life has been extended by 18 miserable months by seemingly endless surgeries, chemotherapy, and radiation. She was convinced that no one should need to go through what they did, not knowing who to turn to or what to do. Less than 2 years later, she witnessed the death of her mother, this time in Israel, from the same disease. But this time, it was different. Her mother's death was comfortable and peaceful, palliated by the team that allowed her to do it on her own terms. One day, while she was sitting in a beautiful garden on Mount Scopus, overlooking the Dead Sea, she suggested to an Israeli doctor-physician that he could maybe come to Montreal to explain what palliative care is about. The doctor looked at her and asked her why. Well, Montreal is where palliative care started. You have the guru of palliative care there, Dr. Belfort, the father of palliative care in North America. And so, when Kappy returned to Montreal, the first thing she did was to call Dr. Mount, who had established the first palliative care unit at the Royal Vic Hospital in 1975. It was the first ever in a teaching hospital in North America. The unit then was world famous, yet palliative care then still didn't have the academic credibility as a discipline. She created then the Eric Flanders Chair in Palliative Care at the McGill University. It was the first chair in North America. And then she created the McGill Council of Palliative Care. These institutions that have had a global impact on today's uncompromised academic acceptance of palliative care. Back even in these days, and even more so today, there were two critical reasons why Beersheba became the heart of palliative care in Israel. The first one is that actually it has the largest concentration of palliative care specialist doctors in the entire country, 20% of all of them. And as important, the fact that the Ben-Gurion University had and has still the intangible yet essential element of passion for this cause. And so, thank you to Kappy's efforts to build a bridge over the ocean. Professor Glick, the Dean of the Faculty of Medicine in Ben-Gurion, signed a collaboration agreement with the Department of Family Medicine at McGill University. Today, the BGU palliative care team is made up of many outstanding experts, including those who were recruited by the Ministry of Health to draft its national standards and protocols for palliative medicine. In actual fact, it's not an understatement to claim that it was the BGU team who actually lobbied for the successful inclusion of palliative care services in Israel in 1995 in the National Health Insurance Law. Today we close the circle, extend our collaboration, and launch the Kappy and Eric Flanders National Palliative Care Center. This will be the first and only university center in Israel, and it will be a beacon of light for medical educators, researchers, and caregivers throughout the country. I want to thank again for this great opportunity in the name of the patients' families and the entire discipline. Together, we will make the center worthy of the Flanders name and hope that the family will take pride in our achievements for many years to come.
Thank you and shalom. I'm Susan Flanders, Kappy and Eric Flanders' eldest daughter. On behalf of the Flanders and Morrison families, we would like to congratulate the university on the opening of the Palliative Care Research Center and say how happy we are to be with you here today. Our father, Eric, was the founding president of the Canadian Associates of Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, opening its first office there. He loved the university and used to marvel at how the buildings were emerging from the sands of the Negev. In 1968, Kappy and Eric took my sister Judith and I to stable care for tea with David and Paula Ben-Gurion. Dad and BG spoke about the school to come. 2 years later, it was a reality, and Dad had been there at the beginning. Kappy, who died this past June, was passionate about many things. She was a wonderful mother, sister, wife, grandmother, and friend. When she believed something should happen, she made it happen. There were people with great ideas, she thought, and there were people who took those ideas and made them happen. She saw herself as a make-them-happen person, and when she got her teeth into something, well, look out, world. Judith?
When Eric died at the age of 59 in 1991, and then when her mother died 3 years later, Kappy discovered palliative care. And she figured that if she hadn't heard of it, the same must be true of most people, and she decided to change that. She established the Eric M. Flanders Chair in Palliative Care at McGill University in Montreal, which, by the way, I am happy to say has just been renamed the Kappy and Eric Flanders Chair to acknowledge her huge contribution. This was the first chair of its kind in North America, and our dear friend, the esteemed physician Bernard Lapointe, who is on the International Advisory Board of the BGU Flanders Palliative Care Center, has just retired as the second holder of the chair. The first holder was Dr. Balfour Mount, who was virtually the father of palliative medicine in North America. After the establishment of the chair, Kappy looked around for new worlds to conquer, and so she established the McGill Council on Palliative Care, a body that works to inform the general population about palliative care and how to access it. Taking that further, 8 months before she died, she organized a citywide festival of talking about death to further assist people in this endeavor, because let's face it, who doesn't organize 150 events in their 81st year? Israel was always on her mind, however, and she worked with Dr. Yoram Singer, a great friend of hers, to establish a palliative care research center at Ben-Gurion University. It took 20 years, but it has now happened, and we're thrilled to be with you today to inaugurate it. Elle?
We also want to thank Jeff Gay, who gave new impetus to this project. Jeff is a good friend, and we know he'll be a fantastic steward for the Flanders Center. We're also delighted that Dr. Lapointe has agreed to sit on the International Advisory Board of the Flanders Center. We know that his devotion firsthand, we know of it, we saw it with our mom through the last stages of her life, and how he led her into a peaceful and comfortable death. Finally, we're also overjoyed that Dr. Singer is one of the leaders of the BGU Flanders Palliative Care Resource Center. He and Mom were soulmates, and it took a worldwide pandemic to prevent Yoram from flying to Montreal, where he would have been the one person Mom would have allowed to see her and say goodbye to. On behalf of both Kappy and Eric and ourselves, we're very happy to be able to wish you great success with this project. We know how essential it was to our mother, and it is to us, and most importantly, though, how vital it is to the community in Beersheba. And in all the places, of course, too, in the world that it will help educate and comfort so many people in their last days. We'd like to thank you very much, and shalom to all of you.